First up this afternoon, official negotiations by government with the International Monetary Fund for an economic program could take off next month. This is what JoyBusiness is picking up from our sources. Daryl has the latest on this.
The proposed August date is part of a schedule that has been put together to guide the country's engagement with the IMF for an economic program. We understand that the mission team is currently carrying out the necessary analysis on the economic data picked up during its recent visit to Ghana in Washington, D.C., USA. The team is expected to present this report to the IMF staff for some input. Now, while that is going on, there will be some online and video conferencing with officials of the Bank of Ghana and the Ministry of Finance. The IMF, based on this data, is expected to come up with their own proposals on what needs to be done to stabilize the economy. This is expected to be influenced by a government-owned enhanced domestic program that managers are planning to put on the table. There has been some preliminary engagement with the IMF when they were in town. However, this August engagement can be described as official negotiation talks. Sources say there are moves to fast-track negotiations to ensure that the country's economic situation doesn't deteriorate going forward. The August negotiations timeline, which will also be influenced by a new debt sustainability analysis report put together jointly by the IMF and the World Bank. According to the IMF, Ghana's program with the fund will focus on debt sustainability and stabilizing Ghana's macroeconomic situation.
Now, the cost of borrowing is expected to go up further as the Institute of Economic Affairs (IEA) is forecasting between 1 and 1.5% increase in the policy rate of the Bank of Ghana to 20 or 20.5%. This adjustment, it believes, will narrow the inflation policy rate gap, although the real policy rate will remain negative. Here's Charles Nixon with more in this report.
The Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana will begin its quarterly meeting tomorrow, with the primary focus of the committee is to craft a policy to help stem the continuous rise in inflation. But a statement from the Institute of Economic Affairs indicated that the increase in the policy rate will signal the MPC's firm commitment to fighting inflation and bringing it under control. The upward adjustment, it also believes, will send the right signal to and help calm the market. Furthermore, it said the next meeting of the MPC in September, when the committee will have had the benefit of 2 more inflation readings in July and August, would give it a clearer sense of the trend for it to reposition the policy rate accordingly. The MPC of the Bank of Ghana, for the second consecutive time in May 2022, increased the policy rate, the rate at which it lends to commercial banks, by 200 basis points to 19%.
Well, joining us on Zoom to discuss this further is economist Professor Lord Mensah. Grateful for your time this afternoon. So what do you expect to be the outcome at the end of the meeting by the MPC?
Expecting them to, adapt the contractionary approach, where they will increase, the rate, the policy rate, by maybe 1 or 2 basis points. And the reason for this is that as you look at the dynamics of the various interest rate structures in the economy as related to the inflation, clearly, you don't see any motivation, for funds to be invested. And then possibly, if you want to save, you don't get any motivation for doing that. And for me, I believe that the policy committee may want to widen the gap between inflation and then, monetary policy rate, so that it can feed into the various interest rate structures. And as a result of that, it will motivate people, to invest. It will motivate businesses to invest. So basically, that is the angle I'm looking at it. But if you take, the inflation that we target, and as I always say, it's not a problem of monetary, policy. I see it to be more of a problem of, fiscal policy, which we may have to, adapt different, strategies to ensure that at least some foodstuff, because if you look at it, various inflation structures, it's food and, essentials are the ones that are costing most in terms of, the price increase. So what are we going to do as a country to ensure that the fiscal aspect of spending wisely to grow certain aspects of the economy so that we can at least control food inflation in our environment should be able to help us. So in a way, they're going to do their best, and I see a situation where treasury bill rate will also go up. In that regard, those who are on pension and they still have funds, to invest are going to benefit from this. But then, as they're benefiting from, their investment, the purchasing power on the market also becomes a bit weaker. And as a result of that, they won't see the value of their investment. So I foresee the policy rate committee increasing, the monetary policy.
Okay, we know the issues we've seen with inflation has got to do with supply side, and the Bank of Ghana has tried to put in some monetary measures to curtail the rise in inflation. We've seen inflation although going up, the rate slowed down in the last couple of months, and so would we say that these monetary measures are contributing in some way to the decline we are seeing in terms of the rate of growth of inflation?
Yeah, it does. I mean, those measures that are put in place has a tendency of reducing this expected inflation in a way. And as a result of that, once the investor community accepts that inflation has a tendency of slowing down, when they're doing investment, they are happy to do that. And for me, that is something that is really slowing down, the kind of inflation we are witnessing. But then also, we should also, appreciate the seasonality in our inflation dynamics. There are times that there are months in the year that inflation, turns out to be very high. So probably the last time I did a seasonal analysis, quite a long time, but probably maybe July is one of the months that we have that kind of slow in inflation. So we should also appreciate the seasonalities. We can't attribute all to the policy rates that are being churned out.
All right, I'll ask you a question I like to ask economists around this time, anytime we speak. If we've seen inflation peak, are we at the peak yet, now that we are seeing the rate slow?
Well, you see, if you talk about peak, I'm a mathematician. Of course, once you see the increment getting slowed, then it tells you that we're almost at a peak. And so, therefore, possibly we can see a turnaround coming down going forward. Yes.
Well, that's some positive news. We started the bulletin with news that official engagements with the IMF will start in August. Do you have any insight as to what this official engagements will entail now that we have ended the preliminary talks?
Yeah, of course. The first engagement was to ascertain the happenings in the environment. And of course, the engagement will be in a process. And once that they familiar themselves with, the information available to them, they should be able to come to us and then start, engaging us. And then indicate the parameters that we're supposed to, target as far as our economy is concerned. But then let's also understand that, going to IMF in this regard was just to have access to the international market, because the trend globally has been that most of the countries that went to IMF are now having access to, international market, even in the difficult times. For them to have some soft borrowing here and there. So possibly, I presume that is why, we're going to the IMF.
Okay, and there are concerns from various stakeholders about what an IMF program would mean, which sectors will see cuts in terms of expenditure. Is that necessarily going to be the outcome as the IMF sorts out balance of payment issues?
Yes, obviously, I think they will cut down more of the discretionary expenditures that the government have. Expenditure lines that government has control over. I think they may be asked to slow down so that it brings our budget deficit within certain control limit. So effectively, we should expect some expenditure like that. And some of the discretionary expenditures are like the free SHS, the capital expenditure that we intend to spend this year. Possibly Agenda 111 will be one of them, and all those. So I foresee a situation where they will ask government to cut down some of the discretionary expenditures.
The finance minister facing backlash over Ghana's return to the IMF. People have called on him to resign. He says he will not. Do you think he should?
Yeah, from my end, I indicated earlier on that he should, but then he should also be part of the team that will negotiate with IMF, because he has the economic memory and he cannot take it away completely. So even if he's stepping aside, we expect him to, because he's still a Ghanaian. I mean, even if he goes, out of office, but then we expect him that he'll be part of the negotiation team.
Okay, I just want to be sure I heard you right. You said he should resign.
Yes.
On what basis?
He should be part of the negotiation team.
On what basis should he resign?
Well, I'm not convinced that they got their projection right when it comes to, the expectations on the yield levy, for them to convince Ghanaians that if you take up the yield levy, then you end up not going to the IMF. But then we took the yield levy, we accepted the yield levy, and we ended up at IMF. And the yield levy, we were told that it's making about 10% of the projected revenue. And I asked myself, what finance minister will make a projection of, a projection and make only 10% out of it? I mean, there seems to be some technical, missing link here. And so for me, economics and finance has to do with projections and getting it almost right. And so if your deviation from your projections, the reality turns out to be far away from the projections, then it tells me that probably there might be something lacking in terms of the economic management. And that is why, for me, on that base, I can say that yes, he can, step aside gently, and then but then I don't want him to go out completely because he has the economic memory, and as a result of that, we expect him to be part of the IMF negotiations.
Well, he said asking him to resign is like a child telling the father to, sort of step aside because he's changed his mind over an issue. I don't think the president will make him resign. He's not going to resign. So let's see how that plays out. Thank you very much, Professor Lord Mensah.
Father to child is a blood relationship. As a father, you can mess up and your children will still accept you. But this is an appointment.
It's not blood.
It's not an attachment. So effectively, we should get a difference right.
Right. Professor Lord Mensah, I appreciate your thoughts this afternoon. You're watching The Marketplace now. Still with the IMF, stakeholders in the agri sector fear they're being left out of discussions for an economic program with the fund. According to them, it's time the fund changes its conservative ways of prioritizing balance of payments of countries they are supporting and allow the countries to choose challenges they want to address. Chief Executive of the Chamber of Agribusiness, Anthony Morrison, joins me on phone because the agri stakeholders are concerned about what the outcome of the engagements would be. What exactly are your concerns, Anthony? Can you hear me, Anthony? All right, a little challenge linking up with Anthony Morrison, who is the CEO of the Chamber of Agribusiness. But as indicated, the agri stakeholders are concerned that that sector will be affected should an IMF deal pull through because there's concentration on balance of payments. I think we can now hear from Anthony Morrison. Anthony, what are the concerns of agri stakeholders?
Thank you very much, Daryl, and very good afternoon to your cherished viewers. I think that considering the ongoing challenges with access to fertilizer, access to credit, market guarantee systems, and disruption of agricultural logistical supply, the ongoing four narratives are some of the challenges confronting the industry. Let me also top it with the fact that the biggest value chain of the agriculture sector, which is the poultry value chain, is considerably under immense pressure as a result of related challenges with access to feed, especially maize and soya. We have also seen increasing costs of other vitamins and feed additives of lysine, methionine, decalcium, fish meal, wheat bran, and other areas of cost of production, which have increasingly gone up. So these 5 narratives could possibly be seen as the ongoing challenges that Ghanaian farmers across board faces.
And so why do you think, I'm just curious as why you think that wouldn't be priority? Should the government engage the IMF?
Well, for us, and having engaged considerably a number of stakeholders, we think that the industry would not accept any kind of conditionality that will be placed on the industry with regards to withdrawal of some critical support, even though we have complained about the fact that the ongoing PFJ subsidies are not enough. So it's not something that we are still ready to contain. We are also looking at the fact that if we go to IMF, some other critical conditionalities that will be placed on the poultry industry that has already lost well over 400 farms. So we will not be in the position to accept that. And let me also add that if the poultry industry is doing well, then we can say that the agriculture sector is doing well because it is the biggest value chain within the sector. It brings on board a lot of grains and cereal farmers. It brings on board a lot of employability. It brings on board a number of other poultry value chain assets, egg select, chicken and frozen chicken parties, and all the other externalities. So these are the areas we're looking at. We do also know that if you take United States of America, they are the largest trade partner when it comes to the poultry value, the frozen chicken with Ghana. Then you have the European Union and also Brazil, Argentina, then South Africa as well. So we need to look at it very strategically in that as a country, we need to start looking at how do we operationalize our food security system. Right. Another issue is the current situation with the buffer stock. Okay, the buffer stock, as we speak, cannot even provide any kind of food security buffer for the country. Even if we are to run out of food now, what is the percentage of food that is available to Ghanaians that we can obtain from buffer stock? What about the other warehouses across the country?
All right.
So these are some of the things. And we think that possibly the president should be looking at setting up the Food Security Commission, okay, to mop up, provide a number of facilities that will help farmers to tap into the credit guarantee system and be able to produce enough food because citizens are suffering. The cost of food, if you look at the inflation figures, over 30% coming from the agriculture sector, food. So we need to look at it very well.
All right. Anthony, we've got to go, but the point you raised about inflation is very important. We reached 30.7% at the end of June, so food inflation continues to rise, and that's problematic. I appreciate your time with us this afternoon. Anthony Morrison, Chief Executive of the Chamber of Agribusiness. Now, some students of the University of Ghana are calling on government to be prudent in spending to help bring back life to the economy. These students addressing issues confronting the Ghanaian economy at the maiden edition of the JoyBusiness Town Hall meeting at the University of Ghana Business School said government needs to review some initiatives, including the Electronic Transaction Levy, Free SHS, and Planting for Food and Jobs initiative. In case you missed the Town Hall meeting, here's a summary for you.
The maiden Joy Business Town Hall meeting was held at the R.S. Samagashi Hall of the University of Ghana Business School. The initiative is aimed at advancing conversations about everyday happenings in the business ecosystem and a medium to prefer solutions. The four-member panel enumerated a number of economic issues that touched on Ghana's growing debt stock, inflation, interest rates, e-levy, and the decision to go to the IMF.
Figures currently show that Ghana loses about 5 billion Ghana cedis through tax incentives and tax evasion, which means that if we are able to put in the proper mechanisms, make sure that people don't invade our tax system, make sure that these incentives given to these multinationals are reduced, we can actually raise some revenue that can show us up.
What I believe the country can do, in addition to fiscal policy adjustments, is that we can consider supply-side policies. Now that we've identified that, it's cost-push inflation that we are facing, we can find out that what goods are driving the inflation rates of both food items and non-food items. What food items are driving the month-over-month increase in inflation? Is it bread? Is it gobe? We don't know, but we have to find out as a country and know that, okay, we know that A, B, and C is what's causing inflation. And the government implements subsidies, tries to reduce the cost of production for these goods.
Presenting their expectations ahead of the 2022 mid-year budget review, the panel said they expect government to pursue policies that would reduce the country's debt.
You realize that our exchange rate keeps increasing since the beginning of the year. It has really depreciated. And so I expect that exchange rates, items, or expenditures such as the external interest payments would also increase. And that will also increase our expenditure.
Considering the accounting concept, which is the prudence concept, I think I wouldn't anticipate to make so much money when I think there's another option. You're anticipating that, yes, the citizens will pay the e-levy so that you'll be able to work for them. But why should you anticipate when you don't have any proof or any grounds to stand on that, yes, the citizens are going to pay? So the best alternative should have been the IMF long ago, about some months ago.
The panel advised government to protect homegrown policies in the education, health, and employment sectors.
They always say that the health of the country is the wealth of a country. So, in fact, yes, we can argue that the National Health Insurance Scheme doesn't cover so many things as we expect, but at least the little things it covers is enough.
I believe that the IMF should not touch education.
It should not touch anything on education?
Yeah, free SHS especially, because if you are going to look at the PDFs, the blueprints of what a developed nation, education of the youth is the bedrock. So it's from there that we develop. I believe that if push comes to shove, right, the free SHS in its current form may not fly because it's too much of a burden on the government. What can we do about this? First, I think that to reduce the burden on the government, there should be an allowance or an exemption such that if you can pay for your wards fees, pay. Because as harsh as it may sound, it's an investment. The government is investing in the youth because we're expecting returns in future. So after those who can pay for their wards are paid, I believe that the fund, right, should focus or give priority to students who are needy but brilliant.
Okay, so Justice mentioned free SHS. And we have the Ghana card, which has the database of every Ghanaian. So I'm thinking that the government could sort of use the Ghana card to trace low-income earning families, because we have the database, and then put those people on government scholarships so that the free SHS is still there, but then IMF introduces such conditionalities for the low-income earning families to benefit from it, and then those who can pay their fees, pay their fees.
Okay, I think that first, and before you even move to what I think they should protect, I think that we should involve the opposition in the negotiation.
All right, and that's from the Joy Business Town Hall meeting held yesterday. Watch out for the next edition. That's the Marketplace. Thanks for watching, everyone. There is more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. You have one of our top stories, the cost of borrowing to Serge's IA proposes policy rate of 20% or 20.5%. Also, interest rates remain relatively stable for 3 weeks. myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daryl Kwawu. Thanks for watching. We'll be back same time tomorrow.